Good afternoon and welcome to another exciting session with your seed sowing sister, Patrice. This is the Seed Sowing Sister movement. Today we're going to be talking about crossing over your Jordan. Many times when people thinking about crossing over into something, they think about getting to the destination. That's the big thing. I'm traveling from one space to get to the next space. However, that's not how God works. He works with the progress in the journey. He works with the path. What do you do in the mean between? How do you handle yourself? What do you do in the process of moving from point A to point B? So today we're going to be looking at crossing over and some of the steps that God gave the children of Israel with Joshua in the lead to find out what does it look like to cross over into your destiny. So when I read this, I started in Joshua chapter 3, the whole chapter, and also the beginning of chapter 4 of Joshua as well. And to give a little background, so in this section here, we now know that Moses has passed away and that Joshua has been established in this position as the leader of the people of Israelites, the children of Israelites. At this point, he has taken on the mantle of his people and the anointing to deal with them as well. And now this will be pretty much his first big act, first big act or first big move with the children of Israel as the head. All of this time before, Moses was the lead, and he kind of sat in the back and watched. But this time, it is Joshua who is running the show. So, if you would like to follow along with me, please grab your Bible. I'm going to be in the NIV Student Bible as well as the King James Version Bible. And I'm going to start reading so we can go over, okay? Remember, we're in chapter 3. We're going to read the whole chapter 3, okay? Early in the morning, Joshua and all the Israelites set out from Shittim and went to the Jordan, where they camped before crossing over. After 3 days, the officers went through the camp, giving orders to the people. When you see the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord your God and the priests who are Levites carrying it, you are to move out from your positions and follow it. Then you will know which way to go, since you have never been this way before. But keep a distance of about 1,000 yards between you and the ark. Do not go near it. Joshua told the people, consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you. Joshua said to the priests, take up the ark of the covenant and pass on ahead of the people. So they took it up and went ahead of them. And the Lord said to Joshua, today I will begin to exalt you in the eyes of all of Israel, so they may know that I am with you as I was with Moses. Tell the priests who carry the Ark of the Covenant, when you reach the edge of the Jordan's waters, go and stand in the river. Joshua said to the Israelites, come here and listen to the words of the Lord your God. This is how you will know that the living God is among you, and that he will certainly drive out the Canaanites, Hittites, Hivites, Perizzites, Jebusites, Amorites, and Jeshubites. See, the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord of all the earth will go into the Jordan ahead of you. Now then, choose 12 men from the tribes of Israel, one from each tribe. And as soon as the priests who carry the ark of the Lord of all the earth, set foot in the Jordan, its waters flowing downstream will cut off and stand up in a heap. So when the people broke camp to cross the Jordan, the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant went ahead of them. Now the Jordan is at flood stage all during harvest. Yet as soon as the priests who carried the ark reached the Jordan and their feet touched the water's edge, the water from upstream stopped flowing. It piled up in a heap in a great distance away from the town called Adam in the vicinity of Zirin, while the water flowed down to the sea of Arabah. The salt sea was completely cut off. So the people crossed over opposite of Jericho. The priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord stood firm on dry land in the middle of the Jordan, while all Israel passed by until the whole nation had completed the crossing on dry ground. So let's talk about this a little bit. Thinking about Joshua in this scenario of crossing over actually took me to my own life of crossing into my destiny and what it looks like. And I remember about 2 years ago, I ended up leaving my home. My home is in Miami, Florida. And I ended up leaving there to move into where God said my destiny was. Now, I tell this story because when the Lord said to move, I kind of went kicking and screaming. I didn't want to really go. I was comfortable. That was my comfort place, my safe space. I had plenty of friends and family. You know, any day of the week I could be out doing stuff, enjoying life, really having a great time in the city that truly does not sleep, Miami. So I was excited, but kind of nervous about this new adventure. And as God was giving me time to get myself prepared, I just knew it was time to go because he said, okay, it's time to go. And usually when he says it's time to ride, it means let's go. But my whole thing was, God, I need details. I need instructions, God. And I had to realize that God was waiting on me to give the full set of instructions. And I remember at one point, God being God, and he is truly the out-of-the-box, unordinary God, I had people would come up and would tell me about where they had gone. And I remember the Lord showing me one day on the back of a potato chip bag, Tampa, Florida. And I was like, what? I couldn't understand it. I never got it. There was a potato chip company I had eaten from for years, never even looked at the back of the bag. And this particular day, I ended up looking at the back of the bag, and it said Tampa. And I just was amazed at how God took this opportunity to show himself in an uncommon, out-of-the-box way, very unorthodox in my life of where he wanted me to go in this path and in this new journey in life. So at this point, I am Tampa bound. And when I first got this moment, this feeling, I was like, okay, God, we're leaving. And then a little fear tried to sneak in. But the more the little fear tried to sneak in, the more the Lord would prove to be more and more faithful and say, I got you. Just let's go. I got you. Just come on. I got you. So I remember as I'm packing boxes and I'm ready to go, and I get in the car and everything is packed. The moving van is packed, and I'm ready to go. And I think about the scene in one of the Jim Carrey movies. I'm not quite sure. But I remember he goes to drive and all the lights are green. And that's how it felt for me leaving from Miami, actually up to Tampa. The highway was completely clear. I don't think I've ever made it to Tampa as quick as I ever did in that trip. The skies were beaming bright, and it was just a peace about that move. And for me, that was what it looked like once I got past the, okay, we're leaving. The nervousness, I have to leave certain friends and family behind, and now forge out and step out into my own destiny that God is calling me into really moving and doing it. So at the beginning, it was a little nerve-wracking, but I'm glad to say that it was an awesome experience in the process. I am still in Tampa and enjoying every minute of it, actually. So let's talk about this. In the case today, I'm going to give key seeds. So with my key seeds, I want to talk about how God used the key seeds not only in my life, but also in the Bible through Joshua in this experience when you're talking about crossing over into your destiny. The first key seed that I noticed in our text, this is Joshua chapter 3, verse 1. He talks about timing. If you'll notice in the text, it says, early in the morning, Joshua and all the Israelites set out from Shittim and went to the Jordan, where they camped before crossing over. Everything God does deals around his timing. Many times we're so ready to move and step out into new things, or we think we're ready to step out into new things. And God is saying, this is not the timing. I haven't set this up for you. This is not the time I've ordained for this. I have not given you what you need to step out at that moment. So a lot of things we find are truly based on timing. I can remember at points where I went and interviewed at different locations, and actually every so many years I would go and say, okay, I'm tired of this one scene. I'm going to go and look at somewhere else new. And I went and I interviewed and did beautifully on these interviews. And as soon as I would walk out, the Lord would say, did I tell you it's time to go yet? And I already knew once I heard that, that I definitely would not be getting a call back from that place. Because he would say, my timing is my timing, and you're not going to rush me. So seed number one, God's timing. God's timing is truly divine, and he has it set up that when you are in the process of your journey or ready to leave, or when he says to leave, you are ready to go. Your timing is prepared. The other part that God gives us, our second key seed for today, is rest. Whenever you're getting ready to go on a big trip or big adventure or journey, you need to get rest. Many times we're so excited about what we're doing and we're caught up in the hustle and the bustle of the day, we don't get the rest that we need. And in the text, we notice that in chapter 3, verse 2, he had them to camp out for 3 days to get adequate rest, to be prepared, not just in the physical, but also mentally, physically, emotionally, so that they will be ready to go and move forward. And most importantly, spiritually. He wanted them prepared for this move. Sometimes we're so ready to jump out that we haven't really taken time to see and really ask and speak to the Lord and say, you know, hey, I'm ready to make this move. I know I'm physically ready, but, you know, am I really, spiritually ready, emotionally ready? You know, am I in a mental good space with this to know that, hey, I'm actually moving. This is what I need to do. And that's a big piece. He gives you rest. Number 3, this is the piece that everybody wants before they make any moves. And it's interesting. For me, in my experience, God didn't give a whole lot of instructions. He only gave one. You're moving to Tampa. He only gave one. And I am a very much detail girl. And I laugh about it because I know that God is like, I created her to be very detailed. But in this case, I'm not going to give her all details. I won't be able to see the expanse or the vastness of her faith if I give her all details. She has to trust me and know that I am God. So in number 3, he gives them instructions. And you will see in Joshua chapter 3, Joshua chapter 3, in the second verse, you will see that after these 3 days, the officers are going throughout the camp and they're giving orders to the people. And they're telling them exactly what to do when they see the ark of the Lord. And he's talking about this all the way up from verse 2 all the way down until verse 6. And he gives them very detailed instructions. The first instruction he gives is for that when they see the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God and the priests who are carrying it, you are to move out of your position and follow it. Now, that's a big piece. When God gives you instructions, you got to know when it's time to get up and go. And make sure you're in his timing, not your own timing. Another part of that is being able to see, is God giving you an instruction to follow alone, or is he giving you a point person? In our particular scenario with Joshua, he's giving them the Israelites. So the Israelites were their, he's giving you the Levites. The Levites were their point persons. When they got to see the priests and the Levites get up and move, that's when they knew, okay, it's time to get moving, lights, camera, action, let's go. So that was a big part of that. Is God giving you the instructions for yourself, or is he giving it for you and a point person? And when he gives it to you, if he's giving it just to you, guess what? It's just for you. And if he's giving you a point person, God has already verified that point person, and he knows what he's asking that point person to do. A big piece in the journey is knowing who's supposed to go with you in the journey and who you're supposed to say thank you, but now I'm going to bless you with a wonderful goodbye. So we have to be aware of who's going with us in the journey and who has to be taken out or removed out of the path of our journey. So then he tells them, then you will know which way to go, since you've never been here before. Now, in this case, they've never been here before. This is a new experience completely. They've never been on this journey. They don't know really which direction to go. They have to be fully trusting in God and that he is leading these Levites and the priests. And really, I look at it like this. If you have a true man of God in your life, you want to be able to lean on him, because he may get a word from the Lord to help you in where you're going in your adventure, or your new adventure, I should say. So another part of this, he gave instructions as of, where you should be, your location in these instructions. He told them that you will know which way to go, since you've never been this way before, but keep a distance about 1,000 yards between you and the ark, and do not go near. Then he also, and let me kind of piggyback a little bit. When we talk about the instructions, he's giving you parts of it. He's telling you who's your key people, the distance you must stay behind, what you're looking for. That was the first part of the instructions. So the key thing that you need to know when you're talking about instructions, if you're going to take instructions, you have to know that you have to be a faithful listener if you're going to be getting instructions. Also know that, and this is for our leaders, and which I believe all of us are, if you're going to be an outstanding leader, you have to first be an excellent and faithful follower, as well as a intuitive listener. Many times people go running up for positions to be the leader, but they have not mastered being a listener, being a faithful follower. So in order to do this, God is saying, let me mold you as a great follower first, then I can move you into the steps of leadership. Another great point that I noticed with this, and I'm going back to verses 3, and 4 in Joshua chapter 3, is where you look at where the Lord is. The Ark of the Covenant is in front of the people. They're not running ahead of him. So you have to look at this in your life. Are you running ahead of God? Are you not prepared and you figure you got this plan? So he gave you part A, so you figure, hey, I got it. I can take it off from here. Are you too far behind God? And he's still saying, hey, catch up. I need you to get with me. Let's get in step. When you're making moves or moving into other things that God has called you to do, you want to make sure, unless he's told you to stay so many yards behind, you want to make sure that you're not too far behind. You want to make sure you're definitely not ahead. You want to make sure that you and the Lord are on the same page, same step at each turn. So the goal is to not go ahead of God and not to lag behind, but to be with God and what he's calling you to do. Another part of the instructions he told the children of Israel was to consecrate themselves. When you talk about consecrating yourselves, you talk about setting yourselves apart. Getting in the Lord's presence, being in your word, praying, building up an atmosphere of prayer, praise, and worship, focusing only on Him. This is that time that He wants to know that, hey, I have your full attention. I want to be your all in all at this moment. I want to be there where you are. You want to be there. And knowing that, you know what, there's nothing going to distract me. I want to be here with you. That was a part of the consecration instruction. Then one part that I really liked as I read about Joshua, especially, was chapter 3, verse 7, where he said, "And the Lord said to Joshua, today I will begin to exalt you in the eyes of all of Israel, so that they may know that I am with you, just like I was with Moses." Now, in your voyage towards your destiny, you want to make sure that you're following what God says, because guess what? If He's moving you towards your destiny, you've already been exalted. When you're being exalted, He's raising you to another level in Him. And it can look any way when you're being elevated and exalted with the Lord. It can look like a new position, a new job. It can look like new money. It can look like the same job, but more experiences. Maybe a chance to learn a new skill you didn't have before. Maybe the elevation may look like a new home, moving out of an apartment to a new home. Or maybe it can look like the Lord taking you from being homeless to a home. Maybe it looks like you leaving, not having to walk to work every day, but now maybe you're able to catch the bus. Maybe it looks like you moving from the bus to having your own car. Maybe He's putting you in a space to be elevated so you can be a voice in the ear of someone influential around you. Because when we think about elevation, it's not always a position, it's having an ear for someone to hear the wisdom that God is using and giving through you. That's all a part of elevation. And the way that He did it with Joshua was that Joshua was a quiet observer during Moses' time. And we really got to see Joshua shine when he went to go spy out the city in Moses' day. And it was him and Caleb as well. It was Joshua and Caleb. And Caleb and him were the only two who were strong enough and bold enough to say what they truly saw in that new city. And because of that, we got an opportunity to see Joshua move up, not just in the immediate ranks, but in the steps of how God had elevated him through Moses' time all the way into his present day. So that's the part I really enjoyed. So let's go a step further. When you look at the actual crossing, let's look at that part. When you look at the actual crossing, I want to start at verse 8. It says, "Tell the priests who carry the Ark of the Covenant, when you reach the edge of the Jordan's waters and go stand in the river." Joshua said to the Israelites, "Come here and listen to the words of your Lord your God. This is how you will know that the living God is among you and that He will certainly drive out the other tribes He spoke about earlier." And then, here's the part I want you to get. When we get to the waters of life, many people see the waters as the thing that's going to take them out. That's not the time for you to see it as an obstacle. That's for a time for you to see it as an opportunity for your Lord, your God, to stand up, show out mightily. And in this case, He showed up. He told them exactly what to do. He said when the priests, in other words, when their toes hit the edge of the water, that this river would stop. And it's interesting because now we're talking about flood season. And for those who've been in areas that have easily flooded, you know, once those flood waters start to rise, it's a very long time for them to recede. And here, God took the time to show up and show out mightily. He let them touch their toes to the edge of the water, and he stopped all the water. Not only did it stopped and built a wall on both sides so that the children of Israel would cross on dry land. So I want to tell someone today that maybe standing at their waters, their areas of water right now, the waters of Jordan in their life, that may look very overwhelming. That may look like a serious challenge that you can't get out of. That may look like a hopeless thing. Don't look at the water. Look at how God's going to bring you through the water. In this part, we actually see how God took them from an area that was literally flooding and brought them into dry land. For you today, I want you to think, for every obstacle in my way, God is making a way through the water. For every challenge in my life, God is making a way. There is no God like my God, because he is truly a way maker. At the end of this, we see that not one person had to even get touched by the water, because he waited. God was so faithful in what he said that as they walked all the way through, every last one of them walked on dry land. So these were today's key seeds to crossing over in your Jordan. The seeds we covered this day were timing, God's timing, God's rest, God's instruction, and I'll even go into the little subs, knowing not to get caught up in the instructions and looking for the extra detail, knowing that you are to be a faithful and excellent follower with outstanding listening skills, making sure that you're not walking ahead of the Lord or too far behind for the Lord, and that you're walking together with the Lord and moving in pace, knowing that at the end, knowing that in your journey with the Lord, you will have challenges, you will have your waters of Jordan, and know that God will allow you to make it through safely with not even one drop of water on you. But last but not least, know that God will elevate you to where he wants you to be. So I want to thank you today for joining me and speaking about crossing over into your destiny. Please join us next week when we will be speaking about your purification process. What does the purification process look like for you in the spiritual realm? If you would like to get in touch with me, Patrice, your seed sowing sister, please feel free to reach out to me on Facebook. We have a group called the Seed Sowing Sister Movement. You can also reach out to me at our email at the Seed Sowing Sister Movement gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from you, and I would love to hear how this show is making great changes in your life. Please reach out, send a word of encouragement. Have a great day today, and let's go out there and be great, because I know you are.